Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Australian Aussie finance and property market. I'm your host, Jo, and on today's show, we have a very special guest, Mike Walmsley from Prop Crew. Mike has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the buyer's advocacy space. I've been really pumped up to talk to him because that amount of experience is so hard to talk about in just 20 minutes. But Mike, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, Jo. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, the way I like to run the session is I like to get straight into it because it's all about you. I'm so interested in your background and your experience over the last 20 odd years. So my first question to you is, take me back in time. How did you get into buyer's advocacy, and what drives your passion for helping people find their right home or investment properties?
It started, Jo. Wife and I have always invested in property. We've had a strong portfolio, still have a strong portfolio, and we're business people. We'd actually sold a business, one of our last business owners, which was a supermarket, independent supermarket.
Oh,
and
wow.
because of the interest in property, I decided to get my license and keep going with it. I didn't go down the path of a listing selling agent. I just felt my experience was such that I could help buyers. I just had that little question mark against listing agents and selling agents that was a bit of a query to me. So I thought, if I get in and help buyers buy, which I've done myself and done successfully, it would be a rewarding sort of profession to follow, and it has been. It's been great.
That's amazing. What a way to get into it. So it's like, you already had your business, you'd established something before, especially a supermarket. It's business is, very similar fundamentals, but such a different target market, I guess, in some ways, of what you started chasing.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about relationships, and in any type of business, you've got to develop a relationship with your customers and the like. And it followed on that we could do the same here with working as a buyer's agent.
Yeah, of course. And your experience as buyer's agent, so how many years have you been doing this now?
Into my 21st year, so just clicked over 20 years a few months ago, and doing it full-time professionally. It's just been an amazing experience where I've had over 600 clients that I've assisted in buying properties, or
Wow.
meaning bidding an auction for some, sourcing for others, negotiating for others, reporting for others. So it's been a really exciting journey.
Congratulations. That's unbelievable. Like, I don't even have words to to tell you how cool that is. It's 600 customers, 600 buyers that had your support over that time is fantastic. My question to you is, so you have obviously had a lot of experiences then. My question here is, what is probably one of the most memorable experiences that you had a client, that you've had with a client, where it's maybe it was, negotiating a particular deal, or it was, something that was a bit unbelievable. What's your most memorable experience?
The memorable is sourcing a property where a client wanted an office space. So obviously work in residential, as industrial, commercial as well. Wanted an office space, had a minimal budget. We were able to source a property which we developed into another 4 office spaces. So the client paid X dollars, bought the particular property, was going to struggle to pay a mortgage, but we were able to convert that property at a minimal cost into 4 other office spaces. So the client had the office space he required, which was much larger than the other 4, but the other 4 set up and rent out. So it became cash flow positive from him virtually from day one. It took about 6 weeks to get the office complex set up the way we wanted it to have. And we leased it out very, very quickly. It was a great story. He was somebody struggling to find office space, and all of a sudden he had his own office space, and he was cash flow positive. I think from week one, from memory, by about $300 a week one, and with leases in place. So it was a really good story.
Wow, what a turnaround! That's unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah.
That's oh, jeez. No, that's so I think different to what you kind of typically hear. Usually it's like a negotiation type of story, but in this case, it's like the way it turned into such a good investment in the end, and the amount of opportunity that customer received is, it's phenomenal.
Oh yes, it was a good story. It's very rewarding, really is.
Oh, it's excellent. And it leads me into my next question. For a lot of our listeners, what can they expect if they were to purchase with you, as a buyer's advocate, in particular in the owner occupancy side? So if they're buying for their own property, what's the typical process that you follow with customers?
Joe, look, the most important thing is to have a budget in place. And we look to all of our clients to have their finance pre-approved, because once they've got their finance pre-approved, we can look at a budget. So we have the finance pre-approved at a certain figure. We deduct from that, it sounds strange, but we deduct from that the costs involved. So if you're purchasing Victoria, stamp duty is quite high, or very high. And we add the other costs as well in it. So let's say your purchase budget is $800,000. We know the costs are going to be around about 6%. So we then look at investing in a property in the mid to low $700,000 for somebody with that property. And the aim, of course, is to not expend all of that budget. I mean, if we need to, and the property suits the client, we certainly will. But if not, we try to expend a lesser sum of money and tick all the boxes for the client.
No, that's interesting, because there's one part of your service in particular that when we met and you told me that you do this, I was so excited by it, because I think if I have to preface it by saying it to our listeners, one of the number one fears of a lot of homeowners, or pending homeowners, is the fear of bad neighbours in buying in a particular neighbourhood. And Mike, you have a really nice solution, or at least a canvassing option for this in your service. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about what you do to try and understand the neighbourhood better when you're buying for someone?
Yeah, certainly, Joe. It's quite unique. We don't know of anybody else that does it, and it's really a great add-on for the client. It's unique to us. We do street reports, and we've got 10 data points that we tick off and report to on a client regarding the street that they're wishing to buy into. And we go through things like neighbouring interviews. We'll talk to 3 or 4 neighbours in that street and get their opinions on what it's like to live in that low. We do distances and times from really strong infrastructure. So we look at how far they are from schools, from a shopping complex, from a bus route, from a train station. Then we look how far they are from parks, so as the children can go and play or whatever if necessary, from gymnasiums, from a golf course, from a tennis club, from walking tracks, and from hospital and medical centres. So we look at those 10 data points, and we let the client know exactly how far away they are from those and how good those actual facilities are for them.
I think that's unreal. Like, to have that's one of the biggest things that I think, even as when you go to an open for inspection, for example, you're often thinking, I wonder what the neighbourhood's actually like. You can see that, the street itself might be cleaned up, or maybe they've had neighbours, mow their lawns on time, fix up certain things to help the sale. But to get that real account, do you often get a lot of the neighbours that you do interview? How do they kind of go with you when you just door knock them and say, what's the neighbourhood like? Are they sort of forthcoming, or do they kind of think it's strange? How do they respond?
Oh, no, look, the majority are very, very good. And before we interview, we have a look at the actual property that we're going to. And I mean, if for some reason the property is poorly maintained, we probably put that as a negative. And with these 10 data points, we really need to tick boxes to at least 8 of those 10 for the property to be worthwhile to the client. So if the neighbouring properties don't, they should look as far as the maintenance point of view is, we don't proceed. But once we get there, we just ask them, how do they like living there? How have they found the neighbourhood? If they lived there for long, the longevity of their time in a particular home is really important, because if they've lived there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years or whatever, we know it suits their needs. And it's also the demographic. We look at the neighbours, young people, old people, do they have children, do they have pets and the likes. So it's a funny thing, the knock on the door, it's always with a smile. If somebody's a bit reluctant to open up to us, so to speak, we say that's fine, thank you for your time, and we see it as a bit of a negative, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. And I think that was my next question is, how do you kind of, I guess, navigate when there is a neighbour? I'm sure you've had this before, where a particular neighbour that you've door knocked says it's crap, hate this area, I'm stuck here, or they've kind of given that review. How do you convey that to the client, or is that considered when you're doing these street interviews?
Oh, well, it is considered, but generally that would be the sort of negative that we'd pass on to a client and say, let's move on to another opportunity. We see that as extremely important as to where you live and enjoying where you're going to be. And if the neighbourhood's not what it should be, well, we think, let's have a look at another buying opportunity, and particularly from an owner-occupier, but also from an investor as well.
Of course. No, that's interesting. I love that. And Mike, I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. I think my final question to you is, what's your advice for home buyers that are out on the market at the moment? Maybe they've just started their home buying journey, or maybe they're a few months in and not having much success. What's your advice to people trying to find a home to purchase right now?
Oh, look, I'm very biased. I'd say get some professional assistance. I think so important, it really is. But the other thing is to pursue, look, and get your do your educating, get out and find out what's out about it. I really support clients going out and going to open sessions on Saturday and attending auctions and like, because they get a bit feel for the market and what's happening, and they also get a feel for a price point when it's the time for them to invest as well. So yeah, I'd say to clients, get out there, please, as often as you can, educate yourself, and we can talk about what you found out and see if it marries in with what we know from our experience.
That's such great advice. And, it's a common theme. It's that due diligence, that, get the education behind you, understand the opportunities. And you do that by attending inspections and going to auctions, because you really see how it all works, and then you're better prepared for if the time comes and you chose not to get support, or if you do get support, you've got someone that goes in to bat for you, which is part of what's so great about your service, Mike, is buyers advocates in general can go in and support. They understand the relationships, they build relationships with, other real estate agents, and they're able to negotiate deals that maybe you couldn't do necessarily on your own.
Yes, and look, Joe, importantly, clients generally come to us in three ways. They're either time poor, or they lack knowledge as to where to buy and what to buy, or they haven't got the confidence in dealing with real estate agents. So we tick all those boxes. So if any client shows a tendency to not have experience or confidence in those areas, we can help them.
Amazing. Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I've loved having a chat to you and getting to know your service. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Joe. Enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you're listening on our app, please have a look at Mike's profile and reach out and book a consultation with him if you have any questions. And you can always catch up on this episode if you missed it on the No BS Real Estate Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.